Well, what does the European Church have to offer the global church? I would point to three things, and these three things come out of both the historical contribution of Europe to the global church, but the contemporary realities as well. One of the things that Europe has offered and contributed to the global church is the area of leadership. The whole Western missionary vision from the 19th century was largely driven through Europe. Yes, North America was involved, but all across Europe, from the time of the Reformation and beyond, we've seen the spread of the gospel from Europe and through Europe to the rest of the world. The mission to the Far East, the mission to Africa, the mission to the Americas, all came through Europe. So Europe led the way with this missionary enterprise in the 19th century. Now in the 20th century, of course, Europe has suffered significant decline in the strength of the faith, decline in Christian witness, and a lot of it has to do with cultural reasons, some of which have come from 17th and 18th century, but flourished in the 20th century, and so there is a rise of unbelief, a rise of secularism, the rise of agnosticism and atheism. And so Europe is in a bit of decline at the moment, and the projections are not good in terms of over the next 30 years what the church in Europe will be like. And yet, having said that, and having realized that some projections are not pointing positively, God is at work. God is still at work, bringing a recovery of the gospel in many areas, bringing a new reality of church planting. France is an amazing story of how new churches are being planted all across France. But we can see that happening in many other parts of Europe as well. So the planting of new churches, emergence of new communities of Christian belief, the way in which the gospel is being strengthened and being recovered and being proclaimed is a very amazing thing. But I point to leadership in mission, and this is a contribution that Europe has made in the past. I believe the opportunity is there in the present for Europe again to make this contribution to the global church, contribution in leadership. Now, in theological education and in the theology of mission, one of the contributions that Europe made, they made many, and one of them is what we call the Missio Dei, which came out of Germany in 1952. This theological idea of the mission of God in the world, the Missio Dei, came out of Europe. Now we have Missio Dei churches all across the world, where these are churches that have defined themselves as mission churches. They exist to represent the mission of God in the world. And so they have an outlook on their environment, an outlook on their nation, the national context, with which sees that they're there not just for themselves and their ethnic identity and their own security, but they're there for others, to proclaim the gospel to others. So leadership, particularly leadership in mission, I think is one major contribution. But let me give you another contribution. Europe has led the way, not only in leadership, but in partnership. Europe has been a model of partnerships throughout the world. And we see that in politics, we see that in society and economics, we can see that in the church. It's a new opportunity for the European church to be able to contribute to the global church in the area of partnership. So the opportunity is there for the church in Europe to partner with the church in Africa, to partner with the church in Asia, to partner with the church in Latin America, in doing God's mission in the world. Someone has said that the 21st century will be the century of partnership, and we look forward to seeing that. And then finally, a contribution that the European Church is now able to make to the rest of the world is not just in leadership and partnership, but in generosity. I think there are forces within Europe that is sort of pushing many Europeans to become rather insular, rather looking at more inwardly towards themselves. But this is a time to be generous to others, to open yourself up to the global reality of the world. and to be able to share with the world in a very generous way the grace and the mercy of God which Europe has experienced over these centuries. So the European Church has a lot to contribute, and we look forward to that contribution being made by the European leaders.